Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are basically taking a sledgehammer to everything you thought you knew about one of the most talked about, yet completely misunderstood compounds out there. I am so excited to get into this with you because we're looking at something that has quietly made its way from the weight room, straight into the boardroom, and even into advanced sleep labs. Seriously, get ready to completely rethink your daily routine.
Okay, let's dive right into this. For decades, right? The second someone mentioned creatine, what immediately popped into your head? Probably a giant bodybuilder aggressively shaking a neon-colored drink. But we really have to ask ourselves, is this actually the ultimate biohack? Is there just a massive gap between public perception and biological reality? Well, the short answer is absolutely yes. Far from being just some niche powder for meatheads, recent science is telling us this might literally be the closest thing we have to a foundational, systemic biohack.
Section 1. Beyond the bodybuilder myth. So we're completely pivoting away from this pure muscle-building reputation. Instead, we need to look at creatine as a rigorously scientifically backed compound for your overall physiological and cognitive resilience. To really get why this is so powerful, we've got to peek under the cellular hood for a second. Think of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, as the cold, hard cash your cells use to pay for literally everything they do. When your body is under high demand, whether you're sprinting, lifting heavy, or just intensely problem-solving at your desk, you burn through this currency incredibly fast. Creatine naturally acts like a quick-charge battery pack. It's kind of like instantly finding an ATM when your wallet is completely empty. It rapidly regenerates that ATP so your cells just don't run out of juice when you need them the most.
Section 2. Fueling your physical engine. Now, before we get into the really mind-blowing cognitive data, let's quickly secure our physical baseline. Because, look, while it's definitely not just for bodybuilders, the physical benefits are absolutely undeniable. And frankly, they're essential for anyone who cares about their long-term health. Yes, we know it increases lean body mass and boosts overall strength, but look a little deeper. It also improves bone mineral density, which is a massive, massive factor for longevity and injury prevention as we get older. On top of that, it significantly enhances muscle recovery by helping to clear out cellular debris. So these aren't just perks for elite athletes. These are top-tier baseline benefits for any health-conscious person trying to build a resilient, durable body for the long haul.
I absolutely love this quote. A hydrated cell is an anabolic cell. You know, one of the biggest myths keeping everyday folks away from creatine is this fear of water weight or, getting super bloated. But here's the real secret. Creatine actually drives water inside the muscle cell, not outside of it. This intracellular hydration is actually a deeply profound biological signal for muscle health and growth. You aren't getting bloated at all. Your cellular engines are literally just getting fully primed and hydrated.
Section 3. The brain's backup generator. All right, let's shift gears completely. Forget the muscles for a second. What scientists have discovered recently is that the greediest, most energy-hungry organ in your entire body desperately craves this exact compound. Yep, we're talking about your brain. Your forebrain relies heavily on the phosphocreatine system to pull off complex, cognitively demanding tasks. We're talking executive function, retaining memories, regulating your mood, and rule switching, which is basically like instantly adapting your entire game plan when your GPS suddenly reroutes you in heavy traffic. When your brain is working hard, it drains its ATP super fast. Having that creatine reserve ready to go means your cognitive engine doesn't stutter when the pressure is really on.
Section 4. Buffering against sleep deprivation. So let's see how this builds into one of the most fascinating use cases in modern science. What actually happens when you put the brain under severe physiological stress, like, say, staying awake all night? If you've ever tried the function on zero sleep, you know firsthand it is pure misery. Well, in a landmark 24-hour sleep loss study, researchers took subjects, gave half of them creatine, and then kept them all awake for a full day and night. The results? Totally stunning. The group that took creatine prior to the sleep deprivation showed significantly less decline in their cognitive performance. They managed to maintain better balance, a way more stable mood, and faster reaction times than the placebo group. It literally acted as an emergency reserve when their main power grid went down. Now, what's really interesting about this is one specific number, 25%. In a separate, highly rigorous protocol, subjects were kept awake for 21 hours. At midnight, after just a single dose of creatine, their processing speed on complex numeric tasks improved by an astonishing 25% compared to the placebo group. And on top of that, their self-reported fatigue dropped by roughly 8%. I mean, that is a massive edge when you're completely running on empty.
The dramatic difference between those groups is just striking. During late-night cognitive testing, the placebo group's performance literally drops off a cliff. They are actively struggling to process basic information. But the creatine group? Their processing speed holds remarkably steady. The creatine essentially stabilized the brain's internal environment. It maintained pH levels and preserved energy stores, even as the external conditions, which, let's be real, was pure agonizing exhaustion, deteriorated all around them. But, and this is a massive but, we definitely have to be realistic here. Creatine is a life jacket. It's not a lifeboat. It absolutely blunts cognitive decline. It gives you a much-needed edge when you're forced into sleep deprivation, but it absolutely does not replace the fundamental, non-negotiable biological need for actual sleep. It keeps you afloat when things get rough, for sure, but you still have to swim to shore eventually.
Section 5. Protocols, dosages, and safety.
So how do we actually apply all of this? This is where the rubber meets the road. Let's give you the exact, actionable blueprint to utilize these physical and mental benefits and frankly cut right through all the supplement industry hype. You want creatine monohydrate, full stop. It's extremely inexpensive, it's proven by thousands of rigorous studies, and it achieves 100% cellular saturation. All those other fancy forms out there, like ethyl ester, buffered formulas, liquid creatines, they largely exist for one primary reason: to invent a shiny new product and increase profit margins on a naturally cheap compound. Seriously, don't waste your money on the marketing nonsense. Just stick to the classic monohydrate.
When you first start taking it, you essentially have two options. Step 1 is the loading phase, which involves taking a higher dose for about 5 to 7 days to rapidly saturate your cells. This gets you results fast, but it does carry a slightly higher risk of gastric discomfort. Step 2 is the maintenance phase, which is just taking a steady, lower daily dose, and that will seamlessly saturate your cells in about 3 to 4 weeks. Honestly, for most people, just skipping the loading phase and being consistent daily is the absolute smoothest ride.
So the crucial point here is knowing your dose based on what your actual goal is. If you're aiming for that physical and muscle baseline, 3 to 5 grams a day is perfect. That's the classic gym rule. But look at the brain. The brain is greedy. It's highly resistant to taking up extra creatine unless you really push the dose higher. For daily cognitive function, the studies point toward 10 grams. And under severe sleep deprivation, researchers used roughly 0.35 grams per kilogram of body weight to literally force that energy into the stressed brain. For an average-sized adult, that equates to upwards of 20 to 25 grams in a single day. To wrap up all this data, let's impartially look at the safety profile. Creatine is arguably one of the most well-studied supplements in existence, with just a massive body of literature backing it up. It is completely safe for healthy kidneys, which goes against some of those really stubborn old myths. The main caveats? Well, if you take too much all at once, you might get some GI distress or an upset stomach, so definitely spread the dose out if you're going for those higher cognitive thresholds. Finally, it may increase DHT, an androgen that can accelerate hair loss, but generally that's only in individuals who are already genetically susceptible to male pattern baldness, so it's a very specific, limited risk. Which brings us to our final question. Knowing what you know now about its undeniable ability to fuel your physical frame, act as a literal cognitive backup generator, and buffer against the brutal realities of modern sleep loss, are you leaving your brain's true potential on the table? It's really time to stop looking at this through the lens of a cheesy 1990s gym commercial and start recognizing it for the incredible physiological tool that it actually is. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly challenge you to put this science to work in your own life.